We are still in the middle of the Congress Center here in Barcelona at the very heart of Sonar Festival, and I am absolutely delighted to welcome with me Mitchell Baker. Mitchell, you are the co-founder and the president of Mozilla. So before I dive into questioning you, can you please just tell us a few words about Mozilla and also the founding principles behind it?
I'd be delighted to. Mozilla is a technology organization best known for the Firefox web browser. We are unlike the others. We are a nonprofit at our heart, and we exist to build the internet as a public global resource, open and accessible to all.
You're talking about open and accessible internet. One question I want to ask you is about net neutrality, because in order for the internet to remain open, it needs to be neutral. It needs to make sure, we need to make sure that nobody appropriates part of it for their only benefit. It feels like since a few years, the net neutrality, which was also a founding principle of the internet, is under threats. So my question is, what is threatening it?
Well, often it's the parts of the existing world that benefit from having more control over more things, in particular the network operators. And net neutrality is not just threatened, but it's gone in the US. And so Europe, the setting is better, but with the introduction of 5G, there's begin to be more discussion that it's so expensive that net neutrality should be set aside. And I find that a very hard argument. It says, well, if we give away the neutrality or the openness of the internet, then the network operators will be able to make more money. And then sometime in the future, maybe somehow that money comes back to us or fixes the internet. So to me, that argument just doesn't make sense at all, but that is the discussion.
Let's, just for the sake of the argument, let's put ourselves in a worst-case scenario. What would the internet look like if big companies and network operators were able to get away with that? What would it look like from a consumer point of view?
Well, it will change perhaps slowly, but if you've ever lived in a world of cable TV, then you can imagine what the internet looks like. So one of the core principles of the internet has been you can get to it. It doesn't matter if you're on a laptop, old machine, phone, doesn't matter what operating system, you can get to it. Or if I have something new, or if I am an artist and I have new materials, I can make them available. And by making them available, i.e. putting them on the web, everyone can get to them. If you want to see something and I'm offering it to you, that's all that's necessary. But without net neutrality, there's a third party in the middle, typically a large organization and its business model, which gets to decide, can you see what I'm offering? And if so, is it easy? Is it so slow it's impossible? Are there special terms? Do you need to buy a special plan? You know, whatever it is. And again, the setting is really different between Europe and the United States. But in the United States, it's very clear they can do whatever they want.
Yeah, we have the problem, or we are starting to see the problem arise in France as well, because some, I'm not going to say any name, but some content providers, video content providers, are taking up so much of the bandwidth that some network operators are trying to limit the access of customers to these services. So yeah, I can see what would happen.
And imagine that you're a small video player in the future after, well, I'm going to go back to the US because there's no restriction on this now, but if the large video operators or video providers eventually work out some arrangement, you know, either they pay or Netflix built in the US its own network to be able to deliver things, that's a sort of new status quo. And if you're a small or independent or regional video provider, now the system isn't even set up for you to participate equally.
So it would mostly be detrimental to the small players, the artists, the creators, the startups maybe?
Well, I think it will be detrimental to most of us. I think 99% of us will find it detrimental. And the artists and creatives and small players will certainly feel it. Yeah.
Before we started the interview, you were mentioning a number of threats. One of them is a new copyright law. Can you tell a bit more about that?
Yes, there's a large effort to rewrite copyright and modernize it. And there are a few provisions here in the EU, and there are a few provisions of that that are pretty disturbing, actually. And the one I'll focus on is Article 13, which we sometimes call the snippet tax. And the idea is that when you are looking for something, these small pieces of text, the summaries, which are often called snippets, but the summaries are very useful, and Google in particular is getting good at providing a summary with the information you want. So it's convenient for users, and users use it, but it limits, it really reduces the number of people who end up going to the site that created the information. And so that's very hard for information providers or content providers, because people aren't coming to your site, you're not getting credit for the work you did, you don't have any relationship to the user, and so all of those are problems that have to be addressed. I think the snippet tax is a bad way to do it. It too, I think, will make it harder for small organizations and new organizations. And then more recently, we're seeing how much propaganda is being developed these days and experiencing how much like legitimate content it appears. And so I think the world where if you want to show information and it's from the publishers that are regarded in Europe, it costs, but if you have information that looks very similar and appears to be high quality and it's free, I would expect that to be distributed more. And you can certainly see that the states that are engaged in large-scale propaganda, especially against democracies, don't need to be paid for their snippets. So I think there's a whole range of things. It essentially breaks the structure of the internet to solve a particular business problem. And that problem is real and important, but it's a bad solution. And it is likely to go into law. I mean, it's very close. The vote is very close.
Yeah, when you were talking about copyright, you said there's a real issue there, it's just the solution is not the right one. So what do you think we should do in order to make sure that we solve these very real problems, but at the same time let the internet remain open and easily accessible, to everybody? Yes.
Well, first of all, I wish I had all the answers. So I'll just maybe offer a few principles, first of all. The principles of copyright are important for creators, and the ability of creators to get paid when they need to and want to is important. So addressing that is critical, and yet breaking the entire system of the net, or the internet, the entire architecture of it, that you have a link and you can follow a link, is really, like, it's the wrong principle. Like, if the issue is that the content creators are struggling with an aggregation mechanism, then I think we should address that a little more directly. The same thing was true with copyright and ACTA and PIPA and SOPA, where the solution was to break the function, the structure of the internet in an effort to protect content creators, in those cases film and video. And you saw that in that case the breakage was so clear that the public uprising was loud enough to stop it, but copyright appears a little obscure to most people.
Yeah, so it's easy, it's hard for them to get behind a common movement, because it's not that easy to understand.
Yes, I think that's the case.
Okay. My last question to you is, have you seen initiatives, whether they are supported by governments or by individuals or by companies, that you think are you know, encouraging to see, and that kind of, I don't know, could let us think that yes, the internet is going to remain open because some people are really putting a lot of efforts into it?
Well, there are a few things that give me hope, and we've seen a few of those. I think the consumer and government reaction to some of the recent revelations about data and what the big platforms and machine learning and AI actually mean are encouraging. I think not enough. I don't think they will make a change. I think we need a series of ongoing public outcry and discussion over what's going on. But that's beginning to happen. And it does take time for citizens to understand what's important and worth their time. That's important because it gives signals to governments, and it gives signals to the tech industry as well. And since we build technology at Mozilla, you know, we understand regulation is hard. And we also understand that the signals the market sends are important. And until the last short period, the market has been sending a very strong signal that the big platforms should plow ahead. Right? We've rewarded them in every way and made heroes out of the founders. And so beginning to change those signals of what's acceptable is really important. And we're starting to see some change in how people approach products too, where the movement from offline life, that you pick products that either align with your values or at least aren't opposed to your values, is just, we're seeing the hints that that's beginning to move into online life. And I have an example or two. They're Mozilla examples. I don't want to give a commercial, but the first one, since we had a new version of Firefox last November that was very significant, and it's the tech champ again, which is great. But we've also begun asking people who've come back to Firefox, you know, who were Firefox users and went to Chrome and have come back, you know, why? And the two reasons, one are it's fast, which is always important in browsers. Right?
Absolutely.
Chrome was faster, I know now Firefox is. And the second reason was Mozilla aligns with my values, which we have never seen before. That is a first. And so that's really encouraging. I mean, it's nice at Mozilla, but in a larger sense, that the movements that have developed from consumers and citizens, that I pick my products based at least on they're okay. Maybe they're great with values, but at least they're okay. Is people are starting to find ways to do that in the tech space. And that, I think, is a really fundamental and
yes,
tool.
public awareness is rising, and
Yes.
it means that people who really care about these type of values should benefit from it.
We hope so.
Definitely. Thank you a lot, Mitchell, for being with us and for answering our questions. I hope you have a very nice and very pleasant stay here in Barcelona, and well, I'll see you around then.
Yes, hope
Thank
so.
you.